Well, welcome back to our third week together. I can't believe it's already been 3 weeks. And this week we're going to be covering the lead and how to write a strong lead into your story. Last week you turned in your character profile, and I will be giving feedback on that really soon, which will also help you as you go into your next project, which we'll begin discussing this week on your event story. So be sure that you are reading the feedback on that. That's very important. This class is a very hands-on, so whatever feedback you get on your assignments, particularly your writing assignments, is very important for you to take those and to apply them for your next assignment so you don't make the same mistakes or you can improve going forward. So be sure as soon as you get those assignments back and before you turn in your next one, that you're reading that feedback because it's very important. It's a very important part of the process. This week we're going to be covering a lot of things, but we are really covering how to write your lead and the different approaches that goes with that. Your assignment this week, you have a little bit lighter assignments, but I want you to take your time on the writing the lead assignment. Now this is coming from a very news approach, but it will help you even in feature writing and even in kind of public relations writing on how to really nail that first sentence or that first paragraph to capture that attention. Leads or lead graphs is really your first sentence. Now some of you, if you have a journalistic background, this is review, but for some of you, the language may be a little bit unfamiliar. So when I say lead, that's really your lead sentence, your lead paragraph or graph. Your first full sentence is your subject verb that captures the attention of your reader, and it gives those essential elements of the story. The lead sentence or graph is the most important thing. So it should be 30 words or less. Even online, you've got a limited time to capture attention, so you've got to make it concise. You've really got to hone down what are those essential points. And your assignment this week will help you pick out those key facts or these key things that need to be in the lead to summarize the story and to capture the attention of your reader or your audience. Now, I wanted to make a note that I've noticed with students, especially those who are not familiar with how to write news-style writing. In print, you always write in past tense. In broadcast writing, and you're probably more familiar with that, I can tell from student writing that they're hearing the broadcast news in their head when they're writing. But print writing and online writing is past tense. So you want to make sure that you're writing those leads in the past tense, in full sentences, not just choppy or like subject, not full grammar, full sentences. So you want to make sure that you're writing in those terms, not in the broadcast, how that sounds. We'll get to broadcast down the road, but for this assignment, it's a print approach, a print style or online approach. So if you're not sure, read a newspaper, read some online stories to see how those lead paragraphs are structured. And of course, our book talks about it. The material this week talks about it. So be sure that you're reviewing those. The other mistake that students make sometimes when they think of a lead paragraph is they're writing a headline. And this isn't a headline. This is a full sentence again. And we'll get to headlines in the next week or so, so you'll be able to make that distinction. Headlines only include keywords, even if they include a subject verb. But we'll get to that in a few weeks. So let me go ahead and just review real quick our course material. I don't want to go through too much because you guys can read this. There's a lot of reading to hear, and a lot of these are really samples. If you had to organize or prioritize, be sure that you're looking at the headlines and leads PowerPoint or watching the video here. George Thomas is a great storyteller. This gets into more of the social media aspect. He's very visual in his storytelling. We'll discover more about him in our broadcast section. Be sure you're watching this. A lot of great material here for you to really hone in on. But if I had to prioritize, definitely the PowerPoints and definitely your reading. For your reading this week, we have chapters 4 and 5. And I don't want to get into too many details here, but in chapter 4, you're basically reviewing the important tools of a writer's toolbox. Some of this might be review, like word choice and grammar and elements of style, using simple words. In writing for the average reader, sometimes in academic writing, you try to be flowery or very academic and kind of what I like to say is a little bit stodgy. But with news style writing or just feature style writing, you want to write for the average reader. So some words that you might use in an academic setting, you'll use simple words, simple writing. Think of like Ernest Hemingway and his simple but effective writing. Use past tense when writing for print. We just talked about that. And when using online quoting, something that's it seems like a really stylistic thing. When you're using quotings, you want to say said instead of says, or using all these different verbs that you can use. It's very simple writing. So these are really important things to review. Chapter 4, the basics of good writing: concise, simple, and very easy to read. In Chapter 5, we kind of break down the different writing styles. There's journalistic styles, there's form style, there's the journalistic writing, which is different. It's a different style of writing, as we were just talking about. It's different than academic writing. It's different than form writing. But this is a conversational, journalistic style of writing, very fact-based approach. So some key points from your reading this week in Chapter 5 is you want to keep your writing readable. I always encourage students to read it out loud. If it doesn't make sense or if it doesn't sound right, you might need to review it and change it. Keep it simple. Consider your story structure. These are all things that your book is talking about. And when it makes these points, make sure that you're underlining those and applying that to your writing. Use active voice. This is something that you can easily get into a habit of writing in the passive sense, where you're actually hiding who the real subject is of the sentence. Use active voice. A passive hides the main actor in the story, in the main actor in that sentence. So you want to flip that around and use the active voice. Use concrete language. You want to paint a picture. Use description. You don't want to get over flowery, but you want to use description and really place your readers or place your audience in the scene so they can experience. Engage all the senses. I always encourage students, but good writing engage the senses. You don't even hardly feel like you're reading because all your senses are engaged. Your sense of smell. How did it look? How did it feel? How did it feel to the touch? What was the experience? And so you want to use that. When you're walking into a room, what did you see? How did it feel? What was the environment like? What was the ambiance like? Those kinds of things that you can add little pieces of tidbits of description that will immerse your readers into your story. Use your words carefully. Now, with description, sometimes you can get overly wordy and use unnecessary words. But you want to be really ruthless in your eliminating what's not necessary and putting in what is necessary to put your readers where you want them to be and to get that message across. So space is money. That's something your author talks about. In online, the longer it is, the less time you have for the readers to actually continue on in their story. So you want to be conscientious about how much space you're reading. That's especially true in print. There really is a limited amount of space. There's always going to be room for advertising. That's where they make the money. So it's just to make the point that you need to be really concise with your wording. And of course, for online readers, it's really about their attention span. So you need to be engaging and keep their interest and make it simple for them. Of course, you always also want to leave yourself out of the story. Don't insert your opinion. Don't insert yourself into the story. I'm always, some of the comments that you might see on your story is to leave yourself out of the story. Sometimes students want to write in the first person, and sometimes you can do that, but you kind of got to know the rules to know when they can be broken. But most of the time I encourage you, leave yourself out of the story, because it's not about you, it's about who you're writing about. It's about the event you're writing about. So leave your personal slant out of it, leave yourself out of the story. And then the rest of that chapter goes over the AP style review, and I would encourage you to look at those, especially if you're not familiar with AP style. So just review those. Those are actually some key areas about AP style that you'll need to know. And of course you have the AP style guide, either if you have it online or have the latest version of it. But these are some areas that will help you in knowing the basics of what commonly comes up in writing. So be sure that you're looking at those and applying them to your writing. So that is it. Let me just go ahead and real quick get into your assignment. You have your grammar quiz. And I already talked about your writing the lead exercise. So you'll download this, you'll write, there's some facts that are kind of listed in not any kind of order, but you'll pick out of those facts what are the most important elements and write a lead sentence based on those. And I give a lot of feedback on that. So take your time on that, kind of a light assignment this week, but that one you want to pay attention to, because writing your lead is the most important part of your story. I always say if you've got your lead written, you've got your story written, because you know what you want to say. and you know how you want to say it. You know the direction that you're going in. So take your time with those stories. It's an exercise, but it will really help you practice the elements of good, strong writing and good, strong lead writing. And as I always say, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm always an email away. Hope you have a great week.